Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. My name is Putri Andini with NPM 2023-017. In this occasion, I will present about language and culture. Okay, enjoy watching guys. About what is definition of language and culture. Okay, the first is about language. According to Kiref 1980, language as one element of culture has a very important role in human life. Language allows a person communicating with others in meeting their needs. Thus, it can be said is the main function of language as a communication tool. This does not mean that the language has only one function. Another function is as a tool to express self-expression, a tool to make integration and social adaptation, as well as a tool to hold social control. Language are arbitrary means no direct relationship between the symbol with the symbolist. Symbolic emergence of an object is based on the convention. However, even so, to be able to understand a language must be studied and used as a communication tool. Next is about function. The function of language, according to Jeffrey Leach in his research, there are 5 functions of language that he distinguishes. The first is information function. This function can be considered the most important partly because it is responsible for describing something and conveying messages that provide new information to the reader or listener. This function is used for affirm or refute a proposition as in kinds or a statement of fact, describe the word or some reason for it, what circumstances have happened, what may have caused the situation, etc. Convey a truth value and therefore contribute to logic. Examples of information functions can be found in encyclopedias, formal articles, textbooks, manuals, etc. The second is expressive function. These functions can be used independently of the previous one as it does not convey a message. It aims to express feelings and impressions. The expressive functions of language helps readers to receive a bigger picture of the characters' personalities and their emotions. When your goal is to express an attitude, it doesn't have to convey any specific information but words that show your emotions. The simplest examples of expressive language are various exclamations, swear words, words of admiration, and thanks. If the information function is one encyclopedia article, this function is common to literary fiction and poetry. Whenever you say a phrase like, I really have this song, you are not giving the other person specific information about this song. You are just sharing your personal and subjective opinion. The third is directive function. This function is somewhat similar to the previous one in that the general meaning of the phrase here is not as important as the effective and situational meaning. People use it to induce certain reactions or actions. It can be a command, a request, for example, for your own sake, close the door. The function is especially common for interpersonal interactions. What is interesting is that the ideas expressed by a speaker are not very important. We can determine whether it hit the target only by the reactions of the recipient to this phrase. Speaking of our example, the phrase close the door make no sense when the door is still open. Sometimes a directive phrase can have multiple meanings. For example, if you say, I'm thirsty, it means information about you and a demand for water. It can also be interpreted as an expression of feelings. So, according to Jeffrey Leach, one short sentence can represent three language functions at once. Fourth is about aesthetic function. These functions can be used in literary work of fiction, poetry, music, film, and other art directions required to display beauty. An interesting fact about this function is that its implementation depends on certain cultural norms. And the last, fatigue function. According to Jeffrey Leach, is a pathetic function. It has the main purpose to build social relations to maintain a conversation. A good example of British culture is small talk when people do not aim to discuss topic in detail, to express their feelings to other or ask for something. They use the language to interact with other people. Of course, their words can share some useful information. For example, when discussing the weather, stock market fluctuation, parenting, etc., but it is not necessary. Then, we next to the definition of culture. According to Nebeban on 1984, culture is the world communication system that binds and allows operation of a set of people called the public. Thus, culture can be defined as a system of rules of communication and interaction that allow a society occurs, preserved and preserved. Culture that gives meaning to all business and human movements. Based on the above definition, clearly shows that between humans and culture are inseparable. Similarly, between the Indonesians and Indonesian culture. This is because human beings live alongside Indonesia in a unit area of ethnic communities, also live in a unity of the Republic of Indonesia. In this regard, they hold on one culture according to the conception of Insight Archipelago. Indonesia is the national culture. Culture in this case is understood as a learned behavior and conducted by a group of people. Cultures obtained from others by learning from the community. Cultures also includes everything that is the result of creativity, initiative, and that work of humans in an effort to improve the standard of living and adapt to their environment. As a system, the culture needs to be seen from the embodiments of human life associated with the ideas, behaviors, and material that are influenced by various aspects. Next is about the function of culture. The first, culture defines situations. Every culture has many subtle cues that define every situation. It reveals whether one should prepare to fight, run, love, or make love. For example, suppose someone approaches you with their right arm stretched out at waist level. What does this mean? That he wanted to shake hands in a friendly greeting was obvious. Too obviously, it was to anyone familiar with our culture. But at another place or time, an outstretched hand may mean hostility or warning. A person does not know what to do in a situation until he defines the situation. Every society has insults and words of contention. The cues that define a situation appear in infinite variety. A person who moves from one society to another will spend years misreading the signs, for example, logging in the wrong place. The second is culture defines attitudes, values, and goals. Attitudes, values, and goals are determined by culture. Attitude is a tendency to feel and act in a certain way. Value is a measure of goodness or desire. For example, we value purified property, government, and many other things and experiences. Whereas goals are achievements that, according to our values, are worth it. Winning a race by agreeing to certain goals and mocking other, culture channels individual ambition. In this way, culture determines the purpose of life. Next is culture defines myths, legend, and the supernatural. Myths and legends are an important part of every culture. They can inspire, strengthen, avert, and sacrifice and bring comfort in grief. We cannot understand the behavior of any group without knowing something about the myths, legends, and supernatural beliefs they hold. Myths and legends are powerful forces in group behavior. Culture also gives individuals a ready-made view of the universe. The nature of divine power and important moral issues are determined by culture. Individuals do not have to choose but are trained in the Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, or some other religions traditions. This tradition provides answers to the big things. Next, culture provides behavioral patterns. The individual does not need to go through a trial and error process, but in culture, the individual has been given a set of ready-made patterns waiting for him that he just needs to learn and follow. If humans use culture to advance their goals, it also seems clear that culture places limits on people and their activities. A society without rules or norms to define right and wrong behavior would be very much like a road many people walk on without traffic signs or understood rules for meeting and passing vehicles. Such will be the result in both cases. Social order cannot rest on the assumption that humans will spontaneously behave in ways that are conducive to social health. Next is about relationship between language and culture. We can summarize the relationship between culture and language as the following. The first, language is a key component of culture. It is the primary medium for transmitting much of culture. Without language, culture would not be possible. The second, children learning their native language are learning their own culture. Learning a second language also involves learning a second culture to varying degrees. The third, language is influenced and shaped by culture. It reflects culture. Fourth, culture differences are the most serious areas causing misunderstanding, unpleasantness, and even conflict in cross-cultural communication. And the last material is about role does language and culture. When language is used in the context of communication, language plays a role as a developer of culture in complex and diverse ways. In terms of the formation of national characters, the role of language certainly cannot be doubted. Because language is an important tool, because with language humans can carry out their social life.